Okay, I'm going to do a read aloud. The story is called The New Kid. Before we start, we have a vocabulary word I'm going to go over. The word is squawked. Can you say that? Okay, squawked means made loud, harsh sounds. Here's an example. The large parrot squawked as it flew from a branch in the rainforest. So now I'm going to ask you a question. Your question is, if a parrot squawked, would it be a loud sound or a soft sound? So I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. If a parrot squawked, would it be loud or soft? Go ahead and answer. Okay. So now I'm going to read you the story that goes with the picture, okay? I was sitting on my porch with George when the girl next door stopped by. George is my parrot. I was trying to teach George to repeat the word hippopotamus. Hi, the girl said. I'm Jade, and I live next door. I hear you're new in town. I'm Lucy, George squawked. No, I'm Lucy, I told her. This is my parrot, George. I couldn't think of anything else to say, so I just sat there staring at George with my cheeks red hot and my hands tightly clasped. I was very shy about meeting new people and very nervous about starting at a new school tomorrow. I must have looked really worried because Jade smiled kindly and said, My mom says we're in the same class. Isn't that great? Everybody's really nice. You'll like our teacher, Mr. Walker, too. He's nice and does great projects with his class. Okay, so card 2. Your vocabulary word, we have a vocabulary word for every page. So this one is relief. Relief is a feeling of being freed from discomfort or pain. So your example sentence is, Jason felt relief when the thunderstorm was over. And the question is, your answer is, have you ever felt relief after finding something you lost? So describe how you have felt relief after you have found something that you have lost. Go ahead and answer. I felt relief when I found blank. Okay, good job. I'm Lucy, George squawked loudly again, opening his hooked beak wide as he ruffled his feathers and flapped his wings rapidly. George likes to repeat whatever I say, which can be a problem. George is a hippopotamus, squeaked George. This is George, I repeated. I taught him that. Then George decided to quietly eat an apple slice. That was a huge relief, because George can be extremely embarrassing. Peace at last, I said, as Jade and I laughed about George's squawking. Suddenly, Jade's mom called to her. I need to go, Jade said. I'll save you a seat tomorrow if I get to school first, Jade shouted as she ran home. Promise? I shouted back. Absolutely, Jade said. Then she ran through the grass and across the small garden, turning and waving as her mom called again. I was still nervous about school, but I thought it might not be so bad as I first thought it was going to be. All right, card 3. They're at school now. Okay, and your vocabulary word is panic. Panic is the sudden bad feeling you get when you are frightened or scared. So here's your example sentence. I felt panic when the big dog growled at me. Okay, here's your question. Do you ever feel panic? So you're going to answer this. I feel panic when blank. Go ahead and answer. I feel panic when blank. Okay, good job. Jade kept her promise. The next day, she saved me a seat in the front row. My name is Mr. Walker, our teacher said, and we have a new student this year. Tell us something about yourself, Lucy. I wanted to shrink to the size of a bug and crawl under my desk. My face must have turned bright red with a look of panic because Jade started talking really fast. Lucy lives next door. She's my friend, and she's really nice. And her parrot, George, knows how to say all kinds of ridiculous, bizarre things. Suddenly, everybody was laughing and talking about George. I want to meet George, someone said. Can Lucy bring George to school, someone asked. That's a great idea, Mr. Walker said. We'll all meet George tomorrow. Bring George to school? What would the other kids think if George said something embarrassing, I wondered. Don't worry, Jade whispered. I'll help you. It took me a long time to fall asleep that night. I kept trying to remember all the embarrassing things George had heard me say. I wonder if he'd embarrass me tomorrow. Okay, our last card. So our vocabulary word is outrageous. When something is outrageous, it is very shocking. Your example is, Nancy did an outrageous dive that shocked the rest of the swim team. And your question is, tell about something outrageous you've seen. So you're going to answer, I have seen blank that was outrageous. Go ahead. I have seen. Okay, good job. Hello, George. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, my dad and I took George to school the next day. Say hello to George, class, Mr. Walker said. Hello, George, everybody called. Hello, George, George squawked. Everybody laughed. George is a hippopotamus, shouted Jade. George is a hippopotamus, George squawked. Everybody clapped. After that, there was an awkward silence because George stopped talking, which was fine with me. I was still afraid he might say something outrageous. Then some of the other kids began talking to me. They asked if I wanted to play with them at recess. Dad took this time getting George's cage ready. Eventually, they were leaving, and I began to relax. Good job, George, Mr. Walker called. Good job, George, everyone shouted. Good job, George, George squawked. Thanks for everything, Jade, I said. Thanks for helping me, Jade. That's what friends are for. I was so happy the first 2 days of my new school turned out to be the best days ever.